take out the core and put something in the middle and put them in the oven, and they turn into a complete foam. They turn into very frothy. I'm David Curtis. I was a film officer at the Arts Council in 1979. Now I'm a curator and writer about experimental film. I joined the Arts Council in 1977, and I said to the people who interviewed me that one of the things I wanted to do was to make exhibitions about film, nobody was making exhibitions about film at that time. And it seemed a really interesting challenge to do. Filmmakers Co-op had started in London in 1966, so this is 10 years later. Film was entering art schools at that time. From the early 70s, there had been film departments in many art colleges, so there was a beginning of a kind of broad movement in England. The technology was difficult because there was no video at that time, or very little video. So the question of how you would show moving images in a gallery was still a kind of big question mark. And one of the interesting things that Birgit Hein had done in Cologne is to get loop machines, loop absorbers, which were almost like, they were disc players, almost like the film would be put on a disc behind the projector, so it could be made into a loop and go round and round and round, so it could play continuously. Even half an hour film could continuously play. And we borrowed the loop absorbers that Birgit had used in Cologne, which I think were 6 or 8 of them, and then we bought some more, so we had, I think, 10 or 12 continuously running moving images in the exhibition. And that itself was, I think, the first time that any gallery had done that in England, to show moving images in that way. Of course, there were a lot of still images next door to them. There were artist drawings that were related to the films. There were photographic blow-ups, there were stills from things. But we tried where possible to include moving images so that it would be a more lively exhibition. And I think we were very happy that it was a successful exhibition in terms of the way it looked. It did look quite wonderful. The Hayward is on 2 levels, and we only had the lower level, so they were all dark spaces. There were no daylight. And I think that worked for us very well, because when there were still images, we illuminated them with very small spotlights, so the images were just glowing in the dark, and then you would turn a corner and there would be a big screen with a moving image projected on it, and the projector sitting in the background whirring away. So I think the architecture there worked very well. I guess we could have proposed it for the Serpentine, which was also run directly by the Arts Council at that time. And obviously, I mean, there were many other galleries around the country that one could have done it, but we wanted a big space. I think we felt it needed to be a big exhibition we wanted to do a big catalogue as well, and very few of the regional galleries were able at that time to afford a proper catalogue. So obviously it was a kind of great advantage being within the art department which ran the Hayward Gallery at that time, so it seemed the obvious thing to do, but it also, I think, the best thing to do. The interesting thing about the Hayward then was that I think it saw itself as having a mission to show work by established British artists, but at different stages in their career. There would be sort of the equivalent of new artists that were like young contemporaries, except that happened at the ICA. But there would be shows of surveying new movements in art. Then there would be kind of mid-career retrospectives for established British artists, and then there'd be late-career retrospectives as well. Now the Hayward is, like everybody else, wanted to do big international shows. So the Hayward, the Whitechapel, the Royal Academy, they all do big contemporary international shows, and I think are much more directly linked to the art markets in the international art market than they were in the 70s. I think there was a kind of greater freedom, funnily enough, in the 1970s to do interesting shows than there is now, perhaps. I must say that I think the way in which the Southbank has sort of disguised the brutalist architecture of the Southbank, I regret that enormously. The buildings are of their period, they're kind of important buildings of the brutalist sort, and the fact that they're all covered with official graffiti and bits added on, you know, I think it's a great shame that they've hidden it. I hope one day it'll be restored back to its original state. You know, the Hayward Gallery is not an ideal exhibition space, but I don't know that there is such a thing, but it's a very characterful space, and it can be used you know, very effectively. There are lots of shows that have happened there which I thought were beautiful in the way that they were installed, using the strange architecture of the space, but it's celebrating it rather than trying to hide it.
Why did I fall in love with moving images? That's a really difficult one. I have thought a lot about that, and I don't have an answer really. I know that I was brought up in Scotland, far away from any cinema. In the village that I lived in the Highlands, a man would turn up with a van with a projector in the back of it once every 6 months and show a film in the local village hall. And I remember seeing some American musical or something like that with my parents in the 1950s in that village, and being amazed by just colour, sound, movement.